Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Palmentiero, Digital Services Manager at the Southeastern New York Library Resources Council, or simply Southeastern. That is Southeastern's logo in the bottom corner of the slide. My co-presenters today are Kim Gianfrancesco, Digital Preservation Librarian at Vassar College, and Palash Bosgang, Digital Preservation Manager at Bard College. We're excited to share what we've been doing to cultivate a digital preservation community through Southeastern's Digital Preservation Special Interest Group, or SIG. Before you hear from Kim and Palash, I'm going to provide a little background on Southeastern to set the stage for the creation of the SIG. Southeastern is a nonprofit membership organization serving all types of libraries and cultural heritage organizations in the Hudson River Valley region of New York State. We were formed in the 60s as a library system for academic, hospital, and special libraries. 2 public library systems and 5 school library systems in our region are also members of Southeastern. We are not a state government agency, but we are state mandated and currently receive about 60% of our funding from the state. Southeastern is one of 9 regional multi-type library systems in New York, and collectively the 9 of us are known as the Empire State Library Network, or ESLN. The 9 of us are independent organizations, but we collaborate on some programs and services. Pictured here is a map of New York State with each ESLN service area shaded in blue, red, or black. There is an arrow pointing to Southeastern's service area, and underneath the map is the ESLN logo. Since 2005, Southeastern has administered a service that helps our members digitize historical materials and make them freely available online. Through this service, our membership has grown to include historical societies, museums, and municipal archives. I have been involved with this service since the beginning, and it's been a pleasure to support over 80 organizations in making their amazing collections widely available. Our service area does not have any large research institutions, and the majority of the organizations we work with are relatively small. Pictured here is a screenshot of the New York Heritage homepage where our regional digital collections have been hosted since 2018. New York Heritage is a collaborative project of the Empire State Library Network. Prior to migrating to New York Heritage, we managed and hosted our own regional repository. When we launched our digitization program 20 years ago, it was strictly an access project. Our support for digital preservation was limited to guidance on file management and storage provided through our digitization workshops. After years of all of us collectively prioritizing access, I started to hear stories of files disappearing at member organizations for all of the reasons files go missing or otherwise become unusable. About 8 years ago, we decided we should do more to help. And fortunately, there were more tools, systems, and services available to support digital preservation than there were back in 2005. So we launched a digital dark archive service using Archivematica and Amazon Glacier. We offer up to 500 gigs of free storage for New York Heritage content to help our members protect their investment in that work. The DDA has grown slowly. Southeastern is not doing digital preservation, we are supporting digital preservation. And as we all know, technology solutions are only one part of the digital preservation puzzle. Much of what we are currently storing in the DDA are files created through federally funded grant projects, or projects that were outsourced, or projects where Southeastern staff played a role in the cataloging or uploading, giving us easy access to the files so we could get them into the DDA without too much effort on the part of our member organizations. Bard College was the first organization to incorporate the DDA into a holistic digital preservation program. Palash and I were talking pretty regularly at the start of Bard's digital preservation journey, and late last spring she asked me how other organizations were storing, managing, and preserving their files. And I replied, funny thing, I was just asked that same question by 2 other people I work with, one from a historical society and the other from a public library. So we hosted a meeting in June of last year under the auspices of our digitization users group to talk about it. We asked Kim at Vassar College to join us as she is our regional digital preservation expert. At that meeting, participants discussed the various ways they were storing files. One thing many shared in common was feeling overwhelmed by the amount of data in their care. At that meeting, we decided to form the Digital Preservation SIG so we could have continuous discussions focused on digital preservation and together build a supportive community of practice. Although the SIG grew out of our digitization service and the Digital Dark Archive, attendees don't have to be using those services to participate. Next, you'll hear from Kim, who will share some more details about the SIG.
Hi, I'm Kim Gianfrancesco, Digital Preservation Librarian at Vassar College. So when Jen decided to form the Digital Preservation SIG, she brought myself and Palash into the planning process. Each of us brought a different strength to the table that helped us design effective meetings. Jen has a deep knowledge of the member organizations of Southeastern, so she understood their capabilities and their roadblocks. I had been working in digital preservation for a few years already at that point, and to my knowledge was the only full-time digital preservation practitioner within Southeastern service area. So I brought experience and subject knowledge with me. Palash had already been consulting with Jen on starting a digital preservation program at Bard College. So her perspective was really valuable as someone currently going through that process. Working together, it was easier to come up with topics and approaches that would be most effective for our particular membership. We settled on choosing a topic for each meeting, having someone do a short presentation on that topic, and then reserving time at the end for Q&A. The topics have largely been concepts or tools that we consider kind of DigiPres 101. Things like creating a digital asset inventory, the NDSA levels of preservation, or a demonstration of how to use Bagger. With each meeting, we're also contributing to a LibGuide that lives on Southeastern's website. It has recordings of the presentations as well as any other links that were shared during the meeting. This serves as an ongoing resource for members to consult. This is just a screenshot of the LibGuide. So through this process, we found that there are both benefits and limitations of the SIG approach to digital preservation education. The first benefit is that we can tailor the content of our meetings to our membership. We focus on tools and approaches that are accessible with limited time and funding. We can also be responsive to their areas of interest. My next presentation for the group is going to be about web archiving because someone asked about it at our last meeting. Another benefit is the element of fellowship. I've noticed in many meetings and discussions about digital preservation, not only within the SIG, but also in the larger profession, there tends to be kind of an emotional component to this work. People express feeling overwhelmed with getting started or feeling afraid of doing the wrong thing. We've found that it helps for people to understand that they're not alone in feeling that way, and it doesn't need to keep them from moving forward. The group can encourage each other to accomplish one small task and build confidence in their own skills. However, there are some limitations of this approach. While discussion is a really valuable learning tool, it's most effective when the participants have something to talk about. We experimented with having a meeting with no presentation and no set topic, just an open discussion, but we didn't get a lot of participation, probably because many of our usual participants don't necessarily have ongoing digital preservation projects to talk about. Jen is currently planning a more formal series of digital preservation trainings that will include homework assignments in between sessions to foster exactly that kind of discussion. We see this approach as complementary to the SIG, with neither replacing the other. The SIG is more informal, allowing people to dip in and out as time and interest allow, while the other will build a cohort and encourage people to move from thought to action. The other limitation is simply that, again, many of the participants in this group are from very small organizations. The SIG can share information on digital preservation, and we can and do direct people to resources like funding from the Digital Preservation Outreach and Education Network, DPOEN. But at the end of the day, there's not much that we can do directly to alleviate the biggest barriers to getting started with digital preservation, which are, of course, time and money. Despite these limitations, I do feel the group has been really helpful, and Palash is going to tell us about the SIG's biggest success story.
To conclude our presentation, I would like to share a case study that illustrates the tangible impact of the Digital Preservation Special Interest Group, specifically our experience at Bard College in Annandale-on-Hudson, New York. I began working in Bard's archives in 2021 and transitioned to a full-time role in 2022. That same year, I completed the Society of American Archivists Digital Archives Specialist Certificate. Through that training, I became acutely aware that our current digital storage practices, primarily relying on institutional cloud-based shared drives, were not aligned with established digital preservation standards. We had no formal workflows or infrastructure in place for managing digital assets long term. As I became more familiar with frameworks like the NDSA levels of preservation, it became clear that this gap posed a serious challenge. After raising the issue with library leadership, we began working with Southeastern's Digital Dark Archives service. However, it quickly became apparent that without robust internal workflows and tools to support them, the process was inefficient and difficult to scale. The volume of the content was overwhelming, and I found myself uncertain about how to move forward in a sustainable, standards-aligned way. At that point, Jen from Southeastern suggested the idea of forming a digital preservation special interest group. The Special Interest Group, or SIG, proved to be invaluable. As the only staff member formally tasked with implementing digital preservation following a title change in mid-2024, I was essentially operating on my own. The SIG provided not only technical insight, but also a sense of community and peer support that had been missing. We structured our meetings around foundational digital preservation principles, best practices, and accessible tools. This format created a welcoming space to learn, to ask questions, and discuss real-world implementation challenges. For example, as I began developing our digital asset registry, I encountered practical barriers, such as how to determine file sizes from Google Drive, which is not straightforward. Through the special interest group, I was able to receive guidance on both technical details and structural considerations. Later, when I began working with the tool Bagger, I brought implementation questions to the group. The support I received allowed me not only to successfully integrate Bagger into our workflow for packaging and transferring content safely, but also to contribute back to the community by presenting the tool as a useful part of DigiPres workflows, as well as a live demo at a subsequent meeting. What I've learned through this process is that digital preservation is not solely a technical endeavor. It is also deeply human. It can be isolating and stressful to be responsible for implementing complex systems and workflows without institutional precedent or additional staffing. The special interest group offered more than just information. It provided encouragement, accountability, and the assurance that others were navigating similar terrain. That kind of support is essential, particularly in small or under-resourced institutions. Ultimately, Bard's progress in digital preservation was made possible not by acting alone, but through participation in a collaborative regional effort. The special interest group helped translate theory into practice and transformed an individual challenge into a shared endeavor. This experience underscores the power of community-based models like the Southeastern DigiPres Special Interest Group, where the strength lies not just in shared knowledge, but in shared purpose. Thank you, and if you have any questions or want to be in touch, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you.